Versus Nova Scotia 1 to wrap up day number 2 of the 2019 Under-16 Girls Invitational National Baseball Championships here on 360 Live. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're watching. My name is Dan Hobson. Delighted to bring you the call here on this one, as Emma James will start it off here for Team Ontario. It's James, Foltz, and Johnson, the top of the order, and then it's Harwood, Sandilands, Chanderdet, Elsich, Howarth, Allen, and Veloci. The order there for Ontario, and they are facing the pitcher here for Nova Scotia 1, which is Ellie McCauley. Also their leadoff hitter. James goes down swinging to start for out number 1. So let's look at that defense here for Nova Scotia quickly. Galloway, left fielder. Center fielder is White. The right fielder is Avery Smith. And then around the horn, Julia Koenig-Schofer is the third baseman. Shortstop, Emma Bradbury. Second baseman, Finway Ryder. First baseman is Dylan McLean. And doing the catching, Elizabeth Gavell. Sabrina Foltz to the dish here for Ontario. Out of Sudbury. Looking to enter the forensics field. Second year with Team Ontario. And she is a lucky one. She has thrown out the opening pitch at a Blue Jays game. Not many people can say and have that on their resume. Kevin Purchase, the home plate umpire, along with Chris Roberts and Donna Kennedy, the umpires for this one. Kennedy down the third base line. Chris Roberts right close to our broadcast location as Foltz goes down. 2 Ks for McCauley. Here's Claire Johnson. She'll do the pitching. We'll get that defensive lineup here in just a couple seconds. Alberta and Quebec 1 is already underway, and that one looks like it's going to be a high-scoring affair. Quebec 3, Alberta 1, as they are in the bottom of the first. Johnson gets a piece, send it to the back stop. Emma James we saw leading off from Toronto, Ontario. Claire Johnson out of Aurora, has been playing for 12 years. Says her biggest influence was her sister Olivia. They are close. Guess you can say they're a close family. Right-hand hitter. Slightly open stance here. Gets all of that, sends it out to left field. Galloway under it, makes the catch. So 2 strikeouts and a fly out to left. No runs, no hits, no Nova Scotia errors, and no runners left on through half an inning. So we'll head to the bottom of the first, and that will allow us to introduce you to Team Nova Scotia and their starting lineup. You saw Ellie McCauley. She's throwing on the mound here for Team Nova Scotia. Will bat first. Elizabeth Gavell, the catcher, bats second. Molly White, center fielder for this game, bats third. Emma Bradbury, the shortstop, batting fourth. Dylan McLean playing first base, bats fifth. Julia Koenig-Schofer is playing third base, batting sixth. Avery Smith is the right fielder, batting seventh. Finway Ryder back in the lineup. She missed a little bit of the game last night against Quebec as she took a foul ball. She was in foul territory, but she had to leave the game, but she's back in, but probably maybe not at 100%, but back in playing second base, batting in the 8th order. And Shauna Galloway is the left fielder, and you saw her make that catch to end the inning there for Ontario, bats 9th. So let's set the defense now for Ontario. Sandilands is the left fielder. Foltz plays center. Harwood is the right fielder. Now the infield from third to first. Elsich will play third. The shortstop, will be Emma James, who led things off. Second baseman is Chander Dat. And first baseman Lauren Howarth. And Reese Veloci will do the catching. And on the mound pitching, Claire Johnson. Final day here. And well, I think there's going to be Kevin Purchase, the home plate umpire, is going to go and talk to the pitcher, Claire Johnson. She's wearing a wristband as well as tape on the wrist. And when you pitch, got to remove all that stuff. And that's exactly what he's going to go talk to her about. So wristbands are pretty. No, it's going to make her just, pull it down. So pull it down for this half inning, but I'm sure she'll have to remove it. She also has tape on the wrist, too. So in steps her countermate on the pitching mound, Ella McCauley. First offering is high for a ball. Lots of chatter here in this one. We have seen a lot of games that they have gone on, and as the games have gone on, the chatter has decreased significantly. 1-1 the count here to McCauley. That's high. 2-1. Johnson quickly working and working from the windup. 2-1 on the way. Strike. It evens the count at 2-2. Outfielders playing straight away, not favoring a pole or anything. There's a pop in the infield. Veloci, the catcher, may not be the style, but she comes up with the ball, and that's the most important thing. Had her back towards the backstop, but usually likes to spin away. So you'd like to usually have your back to the pitcher's mound. McCauley is retired thanks to the Veloci catch. Elizabeth Gavel behind the plate once again here for Team Nova Scotia. Just right on top of the plate. Takes a strike. Johnson likes to work fast. No real time here for Nova Scotia hitters. They have to keep that in mind. That one's high, though, even at 1-1. Johnson's pitch is on the way. Might have got a piece of it. Swing and a miss, actually, so Gavel in the hole, 1-2. Now Gwen upstairs chasing, and she goes after strike 3. Definitely was a ball, and she wasn't too happy with that one as she goes back to the Nova Scotia dugout. Molly White making the start out in center field. McCauley has been the center fielder, but she's on the mound, so they've had to make a slight adjustment, a toe tap, a wide stance, and White goes opposite field for a base hit. And it's fielded cleanly by Harwood for Team Ontario. And Nova Scotia has their first hit of the evening. This will send the shortstop Emma Bradbury to the plate. Ontario thought they might have been able to get a call that time, but Donna Kennedy says safe for Molly White going into second base on the stolen base. Tyler Fancy in the first base coaching box here for Team Nova Scotia. Chris Langelo in the third base coaching box. Brandon Gannett calling the game here from bench level. Ball fouled. We'll go into the parking lot here of the Robert Lenahan Ball Field in Bedford, Nova Scotia. Team Nova Scotia 2 also looking on here in attendance. Jam shot, will it find the grass? It will, and White will come around the score uncontested. Bradbury fought that off. And White, going on contact with 2 outs, scores easily from second as Nova Scotia will take a 1-0 lead. Dylan McLean now. This Nova Scotia 1 team had a tough one against Quebec, and in the meantime, Johnson's going to check here on Bradbury. Trying to keep her close. Another throw over. One of the things you haven't heard at these championships is the old backbirds. Now, I know people are saying back at home, what are the backbirds? Well, we'll give you a lesson on that here after this pitch here from Johnson to McLean. Strike one. Every once in a while, you'll hear coaches say, back. And then all of a sudden, the players sort of start following up, and they go, back, back, back. And it turns into like the birds. It's almost like reminds you of Finding Nemo when those birds and pigeons were saying, mine, mine, mine. Offers at that one, McLean does for strike 2. 0-2 the count. It's kind of funny when it happens, but there hasn't been a lot of that here at the championships. Should McLean keep it alive? Julia Koenigshofer is on deck, the third baseman. Johnson deals, and that's popped. There will be a play. This time, and once again, went to the well once too often was Veloci. She was successful with that catching style the first time on that pop earlier in the inning to McCauley, but not that time, not so much. Might have been better there for probably Howarth, Lauren Howarth, to take that for Team Ontario. Just probably it's better, easier to run in than it is to run forward. Especially when you know the ball's spinning away. It might have been a better angle for Howarth, but it doesn't matter as it doesn't cost him as McLean goes down looking to end the inning. Only took a couple of hits here for Nova Scotia to get on the board. 1 run and 2 hits, 1 left on and no Ontario errors. Let's head to inning number 2 here as Nova Scotia 1 leads Ontario by a score of 1-0. Providing support to many national sport organizations, including Baseball Canada, Sport Canada is directly responsible for the Athlete Assistant Program that provides support to elite baseball players while attending college or university. Sport Canada has been a strong supporter of Baseball Canada for many years and has contributed financially to many activities. A special play ball from Sport Canada. Also, Major League Baseball continues to be a significant contributor to the growth and development of Baseball Canada and its associated programs. Events such as the World Baseball Classic provide exposure for Canada's top professional players while generating invaluable media coverage and associated revenue for developmental programming initiatives such as the Winter Ball program and all Baseball Canada championships. Visit MLB.com. Right fielder Riley Harwood, Sandilands, and Chanderdat due up for Ontario here in the top of the second for them. Strike one to start here for the right fielder. Wide open stance for the left-hand hitter. Out of Waterdown, Ontario, that's popped. Bradbury underneath it for Nova Scotia and comes up with it. Georgia Sandilands out of Whitby, Ontario, to the plate now. Plays for the Whitby Chiefs. Wants to graduate with academic honors. Says her parents are her biggest influence. Throws the javelin in track and field. She likes to be right in front of the batter's box. Guess it's all how you feel. Usually like to get a better look and maybe have your foot on the back line, but to each their own. That's what's so great about this sport. Everybody has an opinion on how you're supposed to do things, and there's no real wrong answer and there's no real right answer. It's just how it feels. For example, if you have like an open stance, sometimes you know that what you got to do is your timing has to be on to get there because you're bringing your foot that's out, bring it back in to make contact. It allows you to get a better look and better swinging action with your hips because that's where you get your power generated. But you don't see a lot of the girls there with wide open stances. But sometimes it's just better off just to make contact as that's low for ball 4. Georgia Sandilands will be the first base runner for Ontario here in the second inning and for the game. Neela Chanderdat. I said about an open stance, and take a look. It's not how I figured this, but it's not how I worked it out. But if it works out for the broadcast, hey, I'll take the credit for it. Looks at a strike. Open stance there for the second basewoman. Out of London, Ontario, plays for the U16 North York Cardinals and Greater Toronto. I guess that's what GDT means. Been playing baseball for 10 years. Will be attending grade 10. That's high. That evens it at 1. During her grade 9 year of high school, she played senior girls basketball, badminton, softball, and varsity boys baseball. It's what you kind of see here sometimes in these communities where you have to, play with the boys. And there's a bunt, and it goes foul. And I think that's probably had the best results there for Chanderdat. Had a lot of airtime, and if Julia Koenigshofer was quick, might have been able to catch that, but it dropped foul. 1-2 in the hole now is the second basewoman here for Ontario with a runner at first. That's Sandilands. Colley deals in the dirt, gets away from Gavel. And up to second goes Sandilands. Gavel difficulty handling that one in the dirt. Gets verification on the count there from home plate umpire Kevin Purchase. Now they'll go to second. Getting in behind was Fenway Ryder. And trying to sneak in and catch Sandilands, and Sandilands didn't really have a big lead to begin with, so that was easily back in time. It looked a lot closer than what it really actually was. McCauley deals on the fist and sent back and out. Back into one of the confession food trucks here at the championships. Chanderdat having a good at-bat, fighting off a couple pitches. McCauley deals again. That's ripped down the line and gets by Koenigshofer, so this will play to run. Galloway comes up running, and in the meantime, scoring, sliding in and then standing up with Sandilands, and on the throw, Chanderdat goes to second base, so we're all even at 1. Carly Elsich from Fenwick, Ontario. She says that her favorite athlete is former Team Canada women's baseball player Autumn Mills. Says that her biggest influence was my cousin Jacob Platt, who fights adversity every day. I think there's a lot of people that fight adversity every day, so that's definitely a good role model to look after. A lot of times, of course, you have to fight and scratch to get what you want in the world these days, and sometimes, of course, you have, things that get in your way, and you don't let those things get in your way, and you achieve what you want to do. That's strike 3. There's a strike 2, pardon me. Bounced away, and now all of a sudden Ontario has the go-ahead run at third with only 1 out. Kind of end on the corners here now. Scooped up by Gavel. Team Ontario looking down to their third base coach, looking for the sign. That's down low. Feel the Ontario fans starting to make a little bit of noise here at the Robert Lenahan Field. That's down low, and the full count offering, and quickly running down like the umpire may change your mind is Carly Elstich. Lauren Howarth. And this will bring out a visit. Chris Langell out of Dartmouth coming to the mound to speak. Actually, that's head coach Brandon Gannett there coming out. Has a short little session there. Lauren Howarth to the plate. Howarth out of Toronto. Plays for the Royal York Cardinals. Doesn't really want to go too far from home as she wants to attend UOT. And everybody in Toronto, Ontario watching know what that means. The University of Toronto, studying either medicine or law. As the song goes, I fought the law and the law won. Elsich stationary at first. You would have figured maybe take the chance here and go take second base and see if Nova Scotia will tip their hat. Nova Scotia maybe hoping that the baseball gods are on their side, because Nova Scotia in their game against Quebec yesterday, 4 double plays were rolled up against them. Maybe they're hoping that they can get one here with 1 down. 1 already in. Ontario threatening. McLean holding. Elsich now on the go. Gavel comes up throwing. Now they'll go to Bradbury as she cut it off. But nothing there from Chanderdat. Broke maybe a couple of steps, but that's about it. 3-1 the count here to Howarth. Thought that's what it was, but maybe it's 2-1. That should make it 3-1. Here's the offering from McCauley. That is up. Having difficulty seeing the calls there from Kevin Purchase. This is hit the deep center field, so that will score to run. Ontario will take a 2-1 lead, and moving up to third is Elsich. As Chanderdet comes across to make it 2-1. Paige Allen, the extra hitter in this one. Paige Allen, also out of Toronto. Unlike her teammate, wants to actually attend UBC. She's entering grade 10. She was the City News Athlete of the Week. Provincial gold medal in hockey has been her greatest accomplishment. City TV, doesn't that have a lot of history behind it? Of course, City TV used to be the owners when it was underneath the Chum brand. Actually had the cool show that was on in the 90s. This is Aging Myself, the Electric Circus. It was done by City TV at the time, and now City TV, of course, the Chum has broken up, so they've gone their own ways. In the meantime, ball gets by Gavel, but no advancement there by Elsich. Juliette Powell used to be the host of that show. A lot of the parents probably watching back here in Ontario says, hey. And of course, that was filmed on Yonge Street. Well, these days, of course, old is new again, so maybe that show may come back. BH 90210 has, and that's ripped down the left field line, and that will score a third run for Ontario. Getting on her horse is Paige, and she'll go into second base easily. Takes a wide turn. Three-1 now. Gavel and McCauley talking it over as Reese Veloci will come up. Also out of Ontario, there's Veloci that plays basketball AUS for St. Francis Xavier University. Says Danny Jansen is her favorite player. Of course, that's really not a surprise when you think of it. You like catchers? You are a catcher? You're going to model yourself after a catcher, and that's what has happened here for Reese Veloci, member of the Royal York Cardinals. Playing the sport for 8 years, winning bronze at the Nationals last year, one of her highlights. And if you ever need a violinist for a musical occasion, you may want to get the phone number, email, or messenger on Facebook. Seems to be the adage of the day. The hip thing that the kids do, I guess. As she has been playing the violin for 3 years. Well, imagine if catchers have to have good hands. Why not, eh? Looks down for the sign. Seeing if there's something on. Not squaring. Paige Allen gets back in time. Fenway Ryder tried to sneak in behind there. They tried to pick off, but to no avail. Stands are filled for this one. Taking a strike there was the catcher, Reese Veloci. Trying to get it back to the top here to Emma James. Slightly open stance here for the catcher out of Toronto. Going to be starting grade 9 soon, and now she'll have to go back as she's a strikeout victim, and she's caught looking to end the second inning, but that was a big one there for Ontario. They plated 3 runs. Just a couple of hits that time, so 2 hits in that inning, and then they results in 3 runs, aided with the help of a base on ball. They'll strand a runner, no errors for Nova Scotia there in the bottom of the second. So Nova Scotia once again now behind the 8 ball, 3-1. This is a game that they're in their must-need. Try to keep pace with everybody else here at the championships. So Claire Johnson back on the mound here. Nice to see Tyler Fancy. He's was a catcher for the Kentville Wildcats, the Nova Scotia Senior Baseball League, now going to coaching here. He's in the first base coaching box out of Lower Sackville. Yeah, Nova Scotia right now tied for 5th. There's a logjam of teams in 5th place, including Alberta, Ontario, Quebec, Saskatchewan, Prince Edward Island's in that, and Manitoba and New Brunswick, both 0-3, find themselves sitting 11th. Koenigshofer gets a good jaunt into that one, but well played and well positioned there was the right fielder, Harwood, making that catch. A long, loud first out for Nova Scotia. We've seen that Koenigshofer can't hit, and we've seen it right there. Tried to go the opposite way, got all of it. Avery Smith, the right fielder, up to the plate. If you weren't with us last night, Avery Smith did not start the game against Quebec, but came in relatively early as they went and got into a situation where they didn't want to let the game too far out of hand, and they brought her in to pitch. So her night off was very short. I think it was about a half an inning, if memory serves me correct. That was low. Shadows maybe starting to be a little bit of a factor here as the sun goes down. A shadow right around the home plate area, so sun right in the batter's eyes, then the shadow and sun back at the mound. So all of a sudden it could be a magician's act. Now you see it, now you don't in terms of the baseball. That's something we'll have to keep an eye on. So really different sun here at the Robert Lenahan Field. Johnson delivers. Smith gets it, hits it back out to the right fielder. Once again, Harwood who makes the play. Fenway Ryder, good to see her back. Left the game against Quebec, as I mentioned earlier, with an ankle injury. She took a foul ball. There was nowhere for her to go. It was ripped. And, of course, with the running style, when you're at third, you make sure that you're in foul territory. So, in that case, it does hit you. You're not out. And it did. But she stayed on just a bit, and then they took her out of the game for a pitch runner. Seems to be okay. Slightly open stance here for the second baseman. Shauna Galloway in the on-deck circle if Ryder reaches base. That was wild, and Johnson might have lost her footing. She did some sort of fancy dancing there afterwards. I don't know if her cleat got stuck. Already fixing some of the dirt around there, taking a look at the area. Still back in the windup here is Johnson and deals. Ryder gets a piece. Two and two the count here. That's low, so that will fill it. Fill it up, sir. Let me check your oil. 3 balls, 2 strikes. Here's the moneymaker. That's popped. That could be trouble. And it will as it falls in between the Ontario Triangle as Ryder gets a little bit of a blue pit here in the bottom of the second. In the sport of baseball, they say bloop and a blast, so they got the bloop. Hoping to get the blast here from the ninth hitter, Shauna Galloway, the left fielder. Very close stance there for the right-hand hitter. Of course, she is a left-handed outfielder. Right-handed hitter. Luke Nicholson, one of the Hammonds Plains A's of the past, alumni, now playing for the East Coast Royals, sitting here watching this one. Of course, he's familiar with the Galloway family. They've played the under-18 for the last couple of years, and Dave Galloway coaching this year. I mentioned last night about Ewan and Nolan being the brothers here. Ryder not with a big lead, and that's bounced into the dirt. A nice block by Veloci. Keeps Fenway Ryder at first. Lauren Howarth there holding her, making sure. Getting ready for a throw. Nothing yet, so not really much of anything here for Ryder. Not getting much of the respect here of Johnson. Of course, in this business, you meet a lot of people, and sometimes you have people that you've met in the past. One of them is Tracy Purchase, Kevin's wife. They have a couple of kids. Foul tipped, and Galloway tips it in, and of course holds on, so I'll finish this story. Home plate umpire Kevin Purchase's wife, Tracy, and I attended a office information technology program. It was about well over 13 years ago. This is 2019, yeah. So that's when I first met Kevin, and that's when he started umpiring at the senior level. So it is a small world after all. Kevin now the home plate umpire, and I just would like to ask Tracy if she's watching. Is Kevin that particular with the dishes when he's at home? Just a little crack. So Fenway Rider stranded at first after 2. It's Ontario leading this one by a score of 3-1. Nova Scotia 1 run on 3 hits, no errors. Ontario 3 runs, 2 hits, and no errors. Well, since of course I was talking about the umpires here, let's talk about Kahunaverse Sports Group. They are the official umpire apparel for Baseball Canada. Clothing is just one small part of the Kahunaverse Sports Group. Umpire supplies, equipment, shoes, and accessories, all part of our line. Get in the game with Kahunaverse Sports Group. Back to the top here for James, Fultz, and Johnson for Ontario here in the top of the third, leading this one 3-1. A pretty important game for both of these teams. Mentioned British Columbia right now and Nova Scotia 2 have gotten into the playoff round, and it is a log jam after that. That's popped. Gavel with the good catching style back towards the pitcher's mount. No, that was going to spin back to her. Makes the catch. Sabrina Fultz, center fielder, struck out back in inning number 1, 0 for 1. So James now retired, 0 for 2. Yeah, Alberta and Ontario, or pardon me, Nova Scotia 1 and Ontario tied at 1-1. So this is a big one. You get that second loss, it makes it really hard. And that's a belt to center field, and she gets on her horse, but unable to come up with it as Molly White now has to go to the fence. Rounding second, on her way to third is Fultz, and she's in there standing up. Be interesting to see what Nova Scotia has in store defensively here. Trailing by 2, 1 down. Looks to be that if it's a ground ball in the infield, they're going to give up the run. McLean and Konishiver well back. There's the ground ball to short. Bradbury, no choice other than to come to first. And they will concede the run as Fultz scores and Johnson is out on the 6-3 putout. Makes it 4-1 as Riley Harwood, the right fielder, comes up, and she's had a pretty good game so far defensively. A couple of nice catches. Flew out to short back in the second. Open stats there. Looks at strike 1. Johnson, out of Aurora, Ontario, 15 years of age. Plays for the Aurora Jays. Also Team Ontario. She's jammed on that one. We'll send it back over the screen. Cavell with the side to McCauley. Weak swing there by Johnson, or Harwood, as she goes down. And that's how this one ends, so they'll tack up another run. And it'll make it 4-1 after 2.5 here from the Robert Lenahan Field. Bedford, Nova Scotia at the 2019 Under-16 Girls Invitational National Baseball Championships. Watching it live online, 360 Live. Your source for sports webcasting in Atlantic Canada. McCauley up to 58 pitches. The Toronto Blue Jays continue to be an integral partner in the development of baseball across Canada. Baseball Canada would like to thank the Blue Jays for their tremendous support to all Baseball Canada National Championships, along with providing their expertise and advice, which continues to enhance the relationship between professional and amateur baseball in Canada. Please visit BlueJays.com. Go Blue Jays! Or Go Jays Go, whichever you want to say. Johnson back out here, as well as Team Ontario with a comfortable 4-1 lead. Back to the top of the order here for Team Nova Scotia. Ellie McCauley, Elizabeth Cavell, and Molly White. The scheduled hitters here in this bottom of the third. 4-1 to score. Looks at strike one. Sun now completely down, not a factor here in this one. Here's a ground ball to short. Up with it. James over there. And it was dropped by Howarth, Lauren Howarth. So it's going to be an error to her. Nothing was really much wrong with the throw. E3, they'll score it. That'll be our first error of the afternoon this evening, wherever you're watching. Veloci still has the sunglasses on, even though the sun's not on. The Joan Lenahan lights are on, but these ones have not come on as of yet. Go to check on the leadoff hitter McCauley there for Team Nova Scotia 1. Slides in easily. Cavell getting some instructions there from Chris Langell. Of course, with the leadoff hitter, you know you have some speed on the bases, so she's going to go. She breaks. There's a throw by Velucci. Not in time. Stolen base for McCauley. Trying to help out her own cause, trailing by 3. Langell flashing the sides. Chris Roberts, the coach from Ontario. Is he checking on something here on his second basewoman? Chander Det? Might be. She might have been, of course, accidentally cleated. She's leaving the game. Thought she was. Well, she'll stick around, but it looked like that's what it might have been in the first indications. But we have to, I guess, hold on before you see things. But Neela Chanderdat will stay in the game, and Nova Scotia fans and Nova Scotia 2 here in the crowd trying to cheer on their provincial rival, I guess you could say, but they're also friends as well. There's the bunt put down. Johnson off the mound quickly and sends it over to Lauren Howard to throw out the catcher. In the meantime, McCauley goes up to third on the sacrifice bunt. Molly White singled and scored back into first. It was looking good for Nova Scotia, off to a good start. 1 run. And for Team Ontario, 3 in the second and 1 in the third. Have it 4-1 right now. 1 for 1. Takes a strike right at the knees. Nothing fancy about Johnson's pitching style. Pretty well. See, here it is. Come and get it. Ball out to center field is caught. Could be a play at the plate. No, it's going to be cut off by Veloci. She had to come out a bit. In the meantime, McCauley comes around and scores. It was a good throw there by Foltz, but unfortunately just not in time. Nova Scotia plates themselves a run, and they bring the margin down to 2, 4-2. So a little fundamentally sound baseball in Nova Scotia. Bunt the runner over. And then the sacrifice fly. Knowing that if you've got strong pitching, you can be able to chip away at this deficit. And that's what they have done now. Well high above the bill for Emma Bradbury, the shortstop. Singled in the first. She is one of the 2 Nova Scotia hits back in that inning. That goes foul. There's a couple of kids and a mother in the area of the bullpen, and luckily for them, they didn't get it in the old noggin knocker. That would have been a tough way. We've seen a lot of things happen here at this field today. It has not been an easy one. It has been hard not only just on players. Vachon, one of the injured players from Quebec, won earlier today. Ended up having to get medical attention, and Sue Dofreit, the umpire in the first game. The man you see behind the plate right now, Kevin Purchase, had the finish going in behind the plate for that game. There's the ball. It's ripped well foul. Down the line, lights now on here at the Robert Linehan Field. So it's seen its share of adversity today. Well, Quebec won. In the bottom of the thirds, we're pretty well even pace right now with that game over at the Joan Linehan Field. 8-3 now. Quebec leading Alberta as they play. There's a ground ball, well foul. Elsich took a look at it for Ontario. Bradbury giving it at bat here, fouling off a couple of pitches. Hoping to get a mistake out of Johnson. Is it going to happen here? Getting another piece of it and fouling it off. If anything, you're getting that pitch count up for Johnson. Johnson deals. Bradbury fouls it again. More foul balls, the more you get locked in on the pitcher, the more likely that if she offers a mistake, you're going to make her pay the piper. Bradbury proved to be a tough out here. 2 strikes. And this one, she'll rip to left field. And making the catch, stretching out with that one. Beautifully done there by Sandilands. Bradbury kept fouling pitch after pitch off. Looked like she might have found something, but Sandilands with the nice grab. Nova Scotia get one more run. Makes it 4-2. After 3 innings of play, let's head to the 4th. So the pitcher starting to get a little bit clearer tomorrow. 2 days. This is, of course, the final games of the day. Alberta and Quebec. They say Quebec leading Alberta 8-3. Nova Scotia 2 and British Columbia will play at the Joan Lenahan Field to start tomorrow morning at 9:30. Still yet to be determined who our opponents be on the 9 o'clock game. And then at 12:30, Newfoundland versus Prince Edward Island. Lots still up for grabs. I imagine probably this game as well as the other game will also make things a little bit more clear by the end of the day. Anyway, we'll have coverage there. Day number 3 here at the Baseball Championships. At British Columbia, Nova Scotia 2 game. That's, of course, the 2 top teams so far in the championships. So one of them is, of course, going to be the top dog in that one as they're getting into the playoff rounds. Sandilands, who made that nice catch leading it off here for Ontario, here top of the 4th with their team up by 2, 4-2 to score as we move along on a Friday night. Happy weekend to you. 7:42 local time. As the summer is starting to dwindle away and fall coming and making its way around the corner. And with that means baseball provincials and national championship time. And that's why we're here. There's a ground ball. Ryder easily up with it. In time, Sandilands grounds out to second. Chanderdat singled and scored in that second inning. And that has been the difference maker so far here for Team Ontario leading. Looks at strike 1. Getting a piece of the knees. Chanderdat likes Kawhi Leonard and Jose Altuve. Says that her dad was the biggest influence. He introduced me to the sport of baseball and has taught me how to play the game and has shaped me into the person that I am today. And I would not be where I am without him. That kind of tears at the old heartstrings, doesn't it? Open stance there for Chanderdat. You know, may not look at it, way back then, but, in your older years as you move on, you don't realize how, special the people that you are in your life are. And for this young lady to be thinking so fondly of her father and how much the biggest influence he has been on her. In the meantime, she'll be fired a chair as McCauley sends her to the bench with a strikeout. Finish my point. You don't realize how good you got it and how supportive. You may feel like they're maybe giving you a hard time in the meantime, at the time, but a term that I like to use in sports broadcasting is short-term pain for long-term gain. Curly Elsich to the plate here. 2 down for Ontario. Quick work here done by McCauley. That one's well high. Elsich takes a strike. 2-1 the count now to the third basewoman. McCauley deals, and now that will even it out at 2s. McCauley tried to get that last out to get Nova Scotia onto the sticks. It does, and a big swing and a miss by Elsich, and she strikes out. Second time of the game, and Ontario's gone no runs, no hits, no errors, and nobody left on. They went that way at the top of the first, and they went that way here at the top of the fourth. So Nova Scotia quickly back on the sticks here with McLean, Koenigshofer, and Avery Smith due up. You know, things happen at a ballpark. This is why you really got to come to a ballpark when you get a chance to. If they have championships or something, they're playing Baby Shark here at the stadium. So, of course, that's Para's walk-up song there for the Nationals. I'm surprised that nobody's doing the. Oh, here they are. No, Team Nova Scotia may not be able to see it from our camera range, but they're doing the old chomping to Baby Shark. Silly things that happen when you come to the baseball diamond. Quebec blowing out Ontario. That's in the third, 11-3. At least this one's still within reach here for both teams. 4-2. Ontario leading. Alberta, they were sitting in the logjam, tied for 5th at 1-1. Could see them fall to 1-2. Dylan McLean, the first basewoman who struck out in the first. Starting to get a little bit chilly, and first pitch swinging. Sends it to the shortstop. And she'll easily fire it over to first. James there to retire McLean. 1 pitch, 1 out. Koenigshofer coming to the plate here. Flied out to right field. She looks like a ball player, doesn't she? Like, look at the uniform, the bare hands, the ripped, and that will get down. Takes a funny hop, and they tried to barehand it with Sandilands, and no advancement. Koenigshofer is on with a hit. Avery Smith, the right fielder, she flew out to right field. Harwood making a couple of nice catches in this game. Takes a strike there, inside corner. Johnson hasn't really thrown a lot over to first base. Not really even really much is paying attention. Evens the count at 1-1 as that one's missed high. Angel with the signs. 1-1 offering. That's hit to right field as it gets past the second baseman, Chanderdat. Nova Scotia has something brewing here in the fourth inning. Couple runners on as a result of a couple of hits. Fenway Ryder got a single in the second inning. There's a bouncer off the plate. They have only one play. Meantime, they try to get Fenway Ryder. And now Konigsberg gets on her horse and the ball gets overthrown. Fenway Ryder will move up to second. Nova Scotia chipping back into this one. Now 4-3. Nova Scotia chant now going on, and Ontario fans not really impressed with that. We may see a little bit of a shouting competition. Friendly, of course, not the matter of ones where they're chirping back and forth. Those you don't like. Shauna Galloway. The Galloway girl to the plate here for Nova Scotia. Looks at strike one. That's inside. 1-1. Something big's happened over on the other field. I'll let you know about it here in just a second. Galloway looks at ball two. 2-1. I think that game between Alberta and Quebec Galloway with a good eye looks at that one go wide, so she's in the driver's seat. Let's see if she takes one here to fill it up. Tying run at second right now. 4-3 game. There's a ground ball. And that will get up the middle. And they will send Fenway Ryder. She's coming around and throw is cut off. And Nova Scotia has tied it. Single for Galloway and an RBI in a 4-4 game. Not sure if Johnson had the glove up there talking to herself, but new ball game now here on the Robert Lenahan field, and a throw over to check. Galloway calls for time. Chris Roberts, the nice guy that he is, obliges and gives the timeout. Now the backbirds are starting to come out. You can hear it now. Quebec putting a beating on Alberta, 15-3 as they play the bottom of the third. And a nice play by James, and that will put an end to the inning. So Nova Scotia chipping away. Put another 2 up on the board. So it's 4-4 after 4. So this game brought to you by the number 4. 4-4 after 4. Let's head to the 5th. A gorgeous Friday evening here in Bedford. Johnson up to 66 pitches. Ontario's committed 2 errors, 4-3-2 their box score. Nova Scotia 4-6-0. So it'll be Lauren Howarth, Paige Allen, and Reese Veloci for Ontario here in the top of the 5th. Getting to be closing stages. All-important game is welcome everybody back here to the Robert Lenahan Field, Bedford, Nova Scotia. 360 Live's continuing coverage of the Under-16 Girls Invitational National Baseball Championships. Both starting pitchers still in this one. McCauley for Nova Scotia, Johnson for Ontario. Lauren Howarth. Howard flied out to center back in the second. McCauley bounces that in for a ball. Getting a piece of it and sending it back to the screen to even it at 1s. Interesting defensive alignment here as the center fielder's playing Howard more to go take it the opposite way. Molly White a few steps over behind the second base bag in out center field. Even a big gap there for Galloway. To left center, that hits the dirt. Gavel decides to throw with his offline, and luckily the tall stature of Dylan McLean goes up and brings it down. Gavel was trying to go for the tag and unsuccessful and almost threw it away. K2-3 it goes. Paige Allen, the extra hitter, doubled back in inning number 2. Big cut. Comes up empty. Strike 1. Bended knee stance here and takes a cut again. Strike 2. Allen now in the hole. McCauley, she's starting to feel it now, I think, because she's pretty well ready to throw and trying to get her timing off. Was Allen, she stepped out a bit. Allie McCauley here in the 0-2 delivery. Strike 3. They call that the good morning, good afternoon, good night, 3-pitch. Strike 1, strike 2, strike 3. Good morning, good afternoon, good night. Out number 2, Reese Veloci. Change up. She was well ahead, and then really, if she did anything, would have just pounded into the ground and has to look at strike 1 as McCauley starting to find her game. The midway point of this really all-important round-robin matchup. Not wasting any time. Strike 2, 0-2. Trying to put away the Ontario bottom portion of their order here in the top of the 5th and do it in quite quick style so Nova Scotia can get on the bats quickly. The 0-2. That's in the dirt. Makes it 1-2. Mochi just looking for anyway as McCauley is starting to feel it. You can see the Ontario players just trying to get in the head of McCauley. Strike 3 as she goes down swinging. So McCauley strikes out the side for Nova Scotia. Of course, 2-3 on the put out there to Howarth as the ball hit the dirt there on the strike 3. And that's a big momentum left there for Nova Scotia. I'm not sure if Nova Scotia 1 has like a restaurant reservation that they want to, but boy, McCauley right there was quick work of Team Ontario. That half inning blew by. So we head to the bottom of the 5th. Gavel, White, and Bradbury due up. Providing support to many national sport organizations, including Baseball Canada, Sport Canada is directly responsible for the Athlete Assistance Program that provides support to elite baseball players while attending college or university. Sport Canada has been a strong supporter of Baseball Canada for many years and has contributed financially to many activities. A special play ball from Sport Canada. Of course, Baseball Canada would like to thank Rawlings, that is the official baseball of Baseball Canada, the ones used at national championships. And, of course, the umpires, equipment and uniforms and clothing from Kahuna First Sports Group. You also get lots more. And Mizuno. The tournament's top defensive player and top catcher will receive Mizuno glove. Mizuno is the official glove and catcher's equipment supplier for Baseball Canada's national teams. More than 200 professional players depend on Mizuno baseball equipment every day to perform at the game's highest level. Visit MizunoCDA.com. Officially 0 for 1. She sacrificed herself for the good of the cause. There's a ball. It's ripped down the line. Fair. But quickly on it there was Team Ontario's left fielder, Sandilands, and that will hold Gavel to a single. Molly White, who singled and scored back in the first, flew out to center 1 for 2. It was 1-0 for Nova Scotia after 1, 3-1 for Ontario after 2, 4-1. 4-2 after 3, and Nova Scotia tied it there in the 4th, and we are into the 5th. The bottom portion here for Team Nova Scotia, the home team here in this one. And the ball gets away. Gavel will get on her horse. In the meantime, going into foul territory to retrieve the ball and run it back is Lauren Howarth. And what a time there for an error. Imagine that will go to the pitcher. Second error of the evening. Actually, third error, as they've just changed it now. Third error. You know that they're going to be paying close attention to Gavel. I wonder if that uniform is ever going to be white ever again. White squares to bunt, but it's well low. Ontario's fans were very vocal. They're quiet now, and Nova Scotia's starting to rev it up. They want to party like it's Prince 1999, and right now, nothing to party about yet. 4-4 as we play here at the bottom of the fifth. Getting to the closing stages of day number 2 and closing time here in this game. That's on the ground, and that's a worm burner. Works as a bunt, and it's going to be overthrown, and Nova Scotia will take the lead as Gavel will score, and White stands up at second base. Another error for Team Ontario, and a lead for Nova Scotia. They've regained it. 4-1 deficit by the wayside. Emma Bradbury to the plate. Claire Johnson all by herself. Nobody in that Ontario bullpen stirring up yet. Johnson looking back. That's low. Every once in a while, I see Johnson put her glove up to her mouth, probably trying to talk to herself, and a bit frazzled here is the pitcher. Looks in for the sign from Veloci. Deals. Was hoping to get the call. Doesn't get it. Definitely was in the strike zone, but it must have missed the plate. Not much of an argument there from Team Ontario. That's low, and Veloci blocks it. So no advancement there by White. So Ontario racking up the errors. 4 errors for them. Couple here this inning, and a walk to Bradbury as she was quite patient. Last night, Nova Scotia was on the tail end of 4 double plays. Ontario looking for one right now. The runners at first and second. Ontario will now head to the mound. Head coach David Gilroy making his way to the pitching mound for Team Ontario. They had a lot of indecisiveness on the defense there because originally Lauren Howarth was playing behind the runner. Then she went in front of the runner. And then, of course, Gilroy, calls the timeout and goes to talk to his pitcher. And the rest of the infielders come in. Kevin Purchase trying to break up this business meeting. And I imagine probably Gilroy is probably not trying to show up umpire Purchase, but just trying to talk about the strike zone and just probably say, look, I think there was a couple pitches that you didn't quite give to my pitcher. That's the nice way to do it. It's the right way to do it. You're not showing up the umpire, but you're also proving a case. It kind of works like in basketball when the referee is running down the benches. Of course, if you're a basketball fan, you know what I'm talking about. Just trying to, maybe work the home plate umpire here. Also maybe use it as say, well, just 2 inches here, and I probably would have. McLean with a stab bunt there is what I call that, because she was just going after it. You got to basically try to do it as if you're catching a ball, have that bat deck and, try to catch it. That's what you got to do, and bring the bat back and let the ball come to the bat and let it rather than stab at it. You stab at it has the potential for a lot of things, as James can't handle the pickoff throw from Johnson. Doesn't go too far. Did get a piece of it. But the runners won't advance here. Bradbury at first, Molly White at second. Cavell's already scored to make it 5-4 here in the bottom of the 5th. Strike to McLean as Johnson heads back. Still nothing in the Ontario bullpen. Johnson looks, deals, goes up the ladder, and that was too enticing for McLean, and she strikes out. She'll walk back a strikeout victim here. And that's the first out for Nova Scotia. Koenigshofer comes up here. Flied out to right and singled and scored in the 4th. And that's a wild pitch, and everybody's going to move up 90 feet. Really nothing Veloci could do with that one. That was just so high that she came out of her crouch. Of course, you got to come out of that catching crouch. Couldn't. And that had a lot of mustard on it as Johnson trying to rear back here with some extra. Knowing possibly she could be at the end of the line. Pitch count, of course, as well as deal with the adversity here for Team Nova Scotia. Maybe trying to rev it up here and trying to get out of this inning. Once again, a Detective Johnson looking for a call. Doesn't get one there from Kevin Purchase. Kevin Purchase, one of the most consistent strike zones in Nova Scotia. And a walk. Koenigshofer now heads down to first. Here's Avery Smith. Avery Smith, she singled back in the 4th and flew out in the 2nd, so she's 1 for 2 in this one. Bases are full of Nova Scotians, 1 out. Ontario needing a double play. Johnson will get ahead of the count with a strike there to the right fielder. That's fouled off at the plate. Not sure if it got a piece of Avery Smith. Johnson trying to come back, and she'll strike out Smith. And you can see she's revving it up. So 2 outs. Fenway Ryder, she's got a double and a single in this one, 2 for 2. That's Bouncer. This could be trouble. They'll have lots of time. Throws over just in time to retire, says Chris Roberts as he punches out Fenway Ryder. A nice good throw there from the third baseman, Carly Elsich. Will end the threat there for Nova Scotia. But they tack on a go-ahead run there in the bottom of the fifth to take the lead, 5-4. So we head to the sixth inning. Top of the order due up for Ontario, James, Foltz, and Johnson. So this gives us a chance to look over Emma James out of Toronto, Ontario. Been playing the sport of baseball for 8 years. Winning the bronze medal in last year's Nationals was her greatest accomplishment. Wants to go to university with a scholarship. Well, I don't understand how you can do this. How you can be a Toronto Blue Jays fan and like Xander Bogaerts at the same time. Xander Bogaerts, the shortstop for the Boston Red Sox, and the Toronto Blue Jays. That's like New York Yankees fan liking, I don't know, David Ortiz or something, or a Boston Red Sox fan liking Derek Jeter or Aaron Judge. So it's one of those oddities in sports. Foltz and Johnson also due up this inning for Ontario. James has one task, and that's to get on base, do what leadoff hitters are supposed to do. Hopefully try to get a rally going. They had a 4-1 lead at one time, and that has gone by the wayside. Nova Scotia with 3 runs. It was 4-2 at one time, and Nova Scotia has taken the lead 5-4. Now there's action stirring in the Ontario bullpen. Neela Chanderdat warming up. Of course, she plays second base, so doing it in between innings. Both teams still okay in terms of bench strength. Bradbury over to McLean. Holds on for the out. Sabrina Foltz out of Sudbury, Ontario. Sabrina Foltz out of Sudbury, Ontario. Second year with Team Ontario. So Ontario down to 5 outs here in this one as we're into the top of the 6th. McCauley still dealing, and that's a changeup. Bradbury with the cannon over to first as Foltz is retired. Claire Johnson was at one time the winning pitcher record, and that's not the case anymore. Quebec 16, Alberta 3 as they play the bottom of the 4th. So we've been trailing that field all day, and now we're ahead, buddy. Talking to my producer, Brian Fisher, as that one gets by Fenway Ryder as Johnson with the base hit. Riley Harwood. She's a goaltender, loves to listen to music and dance. Wonder what her favorite song is as of these days. Likes to draw and be creative. Wide open stance. It's a grade 10 student at St. Mary's Catholic High School. Plays for the Waterdown Wolves out of Waterdown, Ontario. Biggest accomplishment, winning a bronze medal at last year's 16 under championships. Got to put on my Inspector Clouseau hat on for a second here, folks. Talked about it off the top, how Claire Johnson had a wristband on. She had to pull it down. She's pulled it back up because Neela Chanderdad is warming up at the bullpen. So we'll probably see her come out to the mound there in the bottom of the sixth as she is revving it up in the bullpen just close to our broadcast location. Collie not liking what Gava was putting down for signs. Hesitates, now fires, and that's high. Nova Scotia teammates getting behind Ellie McCauley. Now she'll go back over to first, and ball not quite fielded cleanly there by McLean, but was just hanging around that first base area, so no real advancement. See if Johnson wants to touch or see how well Cavell can throw. Doesn't go that time. Colley's pitched well, but in this one, but they're she's had this sort of Katy Perry no big deal when runners are on, not really paying much attention, and Ontario runners not really trying to run on Gavell and McCauley. Let's see if Johnson goes on this one, and she does. She breaks it. It's a ground ball up the middle, so this means that she can round second, puts on the brakes. If Fenway Ryder was there, she could have probably threw behind and got her, but wasn't on the base at the time. Gilroy puts on the hit and run. Harwood with the single up the middle. Not sure why Claire Johnson, after getting such a good break from second base on the hit and run, not on third. Doesn't classify as an error, but that's one if would have made the situation tighter, first and third. Brandon Gannett to the mound. Two-out rally being started here by Team Ontario, trailing by one. Darkness has set upon us here at the Robert Linehan Field. Night baseball, gorgeous night for it. Mosquitoes haven't showed up yet. They'll try to go in behind and try to catch Johnson. Fenway Ryder holding on, making sure that if she left the base for a bit, that umpire Donna Kennedy could ring her up to no avail. Sandilands walked and grounded out, so 0 for 1 officially. Named after the, probably could say, Georgia University or the state in United States, Georgia, spelled J-O-R. Looking at the spelling once again, just to confirm. J-O-R-J-A, you pronounce it Georgia. Jammed, and a comebacker to McCauley, and David Gilroy throws his hands down in disgust as Sandilands pops, and a weak pop to the pitcher ends the inning. They'll strand two, no runs. A couple of hits there for Team Ontario, no Nova Scotia errors, 2 left on. Nova Scotia will head to the bottom of the sixth, still leading 5-4 as they try to get the crowd going here on a Friday night to the sweet song of Mr. Neil Diamond, Sweet Caroline. Maybe you want to sing it back home if you're online watching this one. Sure you know the words. Right out of camera range, you see a couple of the Nova Scotia people dancing. I'm not sure. They're back dancing again, so it's a party-like atmosphere this weekend here in Bedford. If you're in the area of HRM or even surrounding area, come on by. Doesn't cost a thing to get in. Good baseball action, and don't even have to pay the price of admission. Well, I'm not sure if they were handing out the free coffee, but the Nova Scotia fans are starting to get a little bit boisterous. Shauna Galloway leading it off. Nova Scotia in the bottom of the sixth, and that bounces in. Johnson's still on, so the idea of Chanderdat pitching is put on the back burner. In the meantime, Veloci will go out. You have a funny feeling that maybe Johnson is on a... Yeah, Johnson just reminded her, pull the wristband down, and she does. Oblige. It's kind of interesting. We saw one of the times that one of the pitchers for Team Nova Scotia, can't remember if it was one or two, but she had like braces, friendship braces on her arms, and she was asked to remove them completely. Surprised that Johnson hasn't been asked to remove that wristband. Not really supposed to have anything on the wrist, but purchases just pull it down so it's out of sight, out of mind. I jinxed myself with the mosquitoes. They've arrived just like that. Sometimes it hurts to be me. Team Nova Scotia making the noise as if they're handing out free t-shirts here. Of course, that's not the case. Galloway in the driver's seat, and now Ontario's starting to try to get things going. So here we are. Here's the cheer on that we were expecting between both Nova Scotia and Ontario fans in attendance. The baseball version of anything you could do, I could do better. Johnson deals. Galloway gets a piece of it. Could you imagine if Nova Scotia wins this, the party that'd be going on downtown on a Friday night? You could just imagine with the parents. They'll be dancing out onto the streets. Ontario tried to prevent that. Galloway. That actually hits the pitcher. It's going to go as a 1-3 as Johnson pretty well gets a piece of it, but got enough of it to deflect it right over to Lauren Howarth, and she steps on the base easily to retire Galloway on the 1-3, but not the way that you think it should be. Now they're going to go check on Johnson as that was a comebacker off the ankle. Kind of actually surprised that I'm still talking to you folks because I said something about the mosquitoes and they have shown up right beside me. It's a guy I got to meet a few years ago. His name is Brian Fisher. He's a producer here for 360 Live. I'm surprised he hasn't taken one of his little things and hasn't started beating me with it. You had to jinx us, didn't you, Hobson? I just hear it right now. Of course, he has his headphones on and can't hear what I'm saying. Of course, Brian is Brand that brings you the pictures of the championships, both not only on the Robert Lenahan field that you're watching now, but the Joan Lenahan, the other field in play. Ellie McCauley up here. So Johnson seems to be okay. A lot of hours get put behind that you really don't see these producers put into. There's a fly ball, left field. And a can of corn. Making the catch there is Sandilands for out number 2. Taking his time going to the mound, head coach David Gilroy. Chander Dat will come in relief. Johnson gave it her all. It's a 1-run game, and the Ontario fans in attendance showing appreciation. Wonder if this just should be a simple switch here, maybe. Second base to pitching mound here for Chanderdat. Neela Chanderdat in. Has played second base most of this game, and Johnson put down that baseball sock, taking a look at that comebacker from Galloway. That must be like probably the size of a baseball on your ankle. Gilroy and Kevin Purchase going to the scoring area behind the backstop to talk to the official scorers. Emma Howarth. Kendra DeStair. Maxine Slimming. And Oceane Leclerc still on the bench for Ontario. Maybe the DeStair family may be watching back home in Ontario out of Toronto. She plays for the Scarborough Stingers, a 15-under boys team, playing for 10 years, and says that her biggest influence is Uncle Curtis. Kendra DeStair. Where's number 10 for Team Ontario on the bench here? Be interesting to see what Gilroy does with the spares he has. Has some pitch hitting options here in the 7th inning. Right now it stands Chander, Dat, Elsich, Lauren Howarth. The middle of the order due up there in the top of the 7th. Question for Nova Scotia is McCauley got the pitch count that she could actually come back out for the 7th. I imagine probably they'll just not have her services for tomorrow. Cavell with a grounder. And that eats up Elsich. And to left field for a single there for the catcher. Quebec won on a laugher against Alberta, 17-6, as they're to the top of the fifth. The fans on the Ontario side trying to make the catch, unsuccessful. 0-1 the count to Molly White. The 0-1 pitch, high and outside. That evens it at ones. Well, that's a final over there. 17-6. Quebec defeats Alberta. Thought about turning around and throwing was Chanderdat. James not quite there. I've actually moved James over to second base now, so James is at second and Johnson the shortstop. Checks down. Roberts says she went. That's the thing. You have an umpiring crew that have worked together, as I know Johnson and, Roberts and Purchase are ups here in Nova Scotia. The under 18, under 21, as well as senior league, so they have known pretty well for each other, confidence in each other, and Purchase quickly, and that wears right in on the elbow, and that hits the non-funny bone. And White is feeling that. Langell and Fancy over there to take a look at it. Shaking it off and running down to first. There is White. The Nova Scotia chant starting to ring out loud here at the Robert Lenahan Field. In the meantime, had a conversation with Kevin Purchase. Gilroy and Purchase might not have known each other before the championships, but they sure do after this evening. Not saying that the calls have been sort of one-sided, not saying that at all, but they have sort of talked a lot. Kevin Purchase doesn't mind talking to players, and coaches. It's like, well, this is what you got to do. Here, hit this spot. He lets it quite vocal that this is what you get. If this is what you want, this is what you get. Another strike here to Bradbury. 1-2 now to the shortstop. Runners on first and second here. Nova Scotia up by one, looking for more. And Bradbury strikes out to end the inning. They'll strand two. So Ontario has to get one to tie the game. Chanderdat, Elsich, and Lauren Howarth up for Ontario here in the top of the seventh. Coach Gilroy gets the players together for Team Ontario. Might have heard a little bit of a chant. Coaching staff discussing what's going on here as McCauley will head to the mound here to try to get the complete game. Actually, they're going to put it in the hands of Molly White to finish off here, so it's a save opportunity here for Molly White. McLean stays at first. Just go back to her normal position of center field, so that's just a straightforward switch here. White to pitch, McCauley to center field. What a game this one. I think so far, just for this field alone, for the games that I've covered, this has been the best one so far. Low scoring affair, good defense. Although they've given Ontario 6 errors in this one. But there was 17 errors in the game between Nova Scotia and Prince Edward Island. Nova Scotia 2 and Prince Edward Island. .33 runs in that one. It was 21-12 by the time the smoke cleared for Team Nova Scotia 2 in that one. 33 runs and 17 errors. This one has been a better defensive gem here. The championships. So White here trying to save it. You knew the importance of the game that and McCauley pretty well went the good majority of this one, and now just a second pitching change for Nova Scotia, and Chanderdat the second pitching change, and Ontario is starting to try to make noise as they pound on. Everybody on the Ontario bench is up. Reaction here will tell you what happens. A ball high there, too. Neela Chanderdat leading it off here for Ontario here, top of the 7th. Fly ball, is that going to get down? It does. It hits the dirt and rolls to the outfield grass. Leadoff runner is on. And just like that, game on here in inning number 7. Carly Elsich scored a run back in the 2nd, struck out in the 4th. Type of lead Chanderdat gets here. Molly looks over at her, sets, deals. Outside corner for a strike. And that's going to go towards the importance of this bat. White once again looks over at Chanderdat. Square to bunt, and a delayed steal. Throw gets there, but not in time. A delayed steal by Chanderdat. So Ontario with the tying run at 2nd. Elsich at the plate. Swing and a miss. White strikes her out. Emma Howarth coming in to pitch it for her sister Lauren Howarth as Coach Gilroy goes to the bench. Looking for a little bit of an extra bat. Lauren Howarth was 0 for 2. This is the first one, as we mentioned here. For Emma, she goes up after it for strike one. It's the most vocal game, but it's also been the most closest game so far here at the championships. Strike two as she looks at that one. Inside corner. Belt high. 1-0-2 now to the pitch hitter, Emma Howarth. Swing and a miss. Ontario down to their last out. Paige Allen, she had a double back and struck out in the fifth. Ontario down to their last out. White looks in for the sign from Gavel. Strike one. Nova Scotia faithful tell you that. White looks back. Deals. That's in the dirt. Gavel was looking for it. Did the what I call the Tasmanian Devil when you spin around looking for it, but there was no advancement there from Chanderdat as it didn't get by. One offering. Swing it. One ball and two strikes. Down to the final strike is Team Ontario. One-two on its way. Strike three. A celebration as Nova Scotia looks like they threw a no-hitter the way they're celebrating and jumping up and down. Heartbreak here for Team Ontario. Molly White comes in and gets the save, strikes out the side. Nothing across for Ontario in the top of the seventh. But that's nothing really for this Ontario team to hang your heads at. That was a beautifully played game, and I would venture to say, based on me being here for 2 days here at this field, this was a dandy. This was the best game so far at the championships on this field. Final line score for Ontario, 4 runs, 5 hits. Nova Scotia, 5 runs, 8 hits, and 1 error. Maybe that will let the smoke clear. Quebec 1 went to 2-1. Quebec 2 is 2-1 and 2-1. Alberta drops to 1-2. Nova Scotia 1. Of course, that's a team we just now saw defeat Ontario. Goes to 2-1, and Ontario goes to 1-2. That's a tough one there. New Brunswick 0-3. Manitoba 0-3. Rhode Island 1-2. Saskatchewan 1-2. Claire Johnson almost went the distance. Gave Ontario a chance here. Really, Ontario, nothing to really hang their heads at. Gave them a chance to win, and that's all you could ask for. McCauley gets the player of the game. That was agreed. A great game. So, ladies and gentlemen, that will wrap up day number 2 here of the 2019 Under-16 Girls Invitational National Baseball Championships. They're trying to figure out everybody who's going to play. Right now, nothing up on the board to determine yet. It will be to be determined versus to be determined as well. So we're going to call it a day. So for my producer, Brian Fisher, and the entire 360 Live crew in Bedford, Nova Scotia, my name is Dan Hobson. Thank you for tuning in for the coverage today.